Hey, Stephanie. Can you hear us, Stephanie? But this is what we're gonna want to do, Dennis, too, is we're gonna make this very interactive. So what I want you to do is ask as many questions. We're gonna go through the meat and potatoes of the lawsuits and what I think the effect on the real estate industry is. And you're gonna be a good person to comment since you've been in the business for a long time as well. Just off the top, are you concerned? What do you know about the Compass Anywhere merger? What do you know about that?
I just know that it happened.
You just know that it happened?
Yeah.
We'll get into the meat and potatoes in a couple more minutes, but we'll see. But it's going to be, again, I've been in the business for 32 years. It will be the biggest transformation in the real estate industry in the next 2 years, period. I mean, there's no way it can't happen. There's too many things going on, and I think the biggest fumble is our association. National Association of Realtors is doing nothing. They're standing back and watching, and they're just going to let everything play out. And if you let everybody else play out, it's not going to go the way you want it to go. So, and then
They won't exist pretty soon.
Well, I predict the end of NAR. This will be the end of NAR, and I also predict that this will be the end of local MLS. This will be the end of local MLS. You will not need NAR because they have not advocated for realtors for a couple of years. And that's one of the things that's going to be very interesting is going to be whereas NAR didn't hire proper legal, did not have proper legal people fighting that NAR lawsuit. I will 100% guarantee you Zillow will have the brightest and best attorneys fighting this, and that's why I think they'll prevail. And if NAR had taken it more seriously, I think it would have been a different outcome as well. We'll give it a couple more minutes, and then we'll just start talking about what the different things that we're going to discuss today. And well, it's 1:05. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get into it because we do have information to cover. So what we want this to be those very interactive. So if you're not familiar at all with what's going on and you have questions, you should be asking these questions. Is it going to affect your local business? Probably not a whole lot up front, but will affect the real estate industry as a whole, 100%. And I think in the next 2 years, you'll see more change happen in the next 2 years than the previous 30 combined. And
short of technology.
well, I mean, this is yeah. I mean, when I got in the business, we were still handing out cards. We still had these cards that were going back and forth between companies, and then they just got to the MLS books. 1993 is when I got into the business. But so the first thing we're going to kind of talk about is the Compass Anywhere merger. So it was announced a couple of weeks ago that Compass was acquiring Anywhere, and what the terms of that are is Compass is acquiring Anywhere for $1.6 billion. And they're acquiring all their brands that go along with it. Anywhere was the largest real estate company in the world, and Compass is now acquiring Anywhere and all the brands associated with Anywhere. These would be Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's, Christie's, and it's going to create a brokerage of somewhere between 320,000 and 340,000 agents. So they bought them for 1.6 billion, but here's the kicker. Guess what they also acquired? They acquired $2.1 billion in debt of anywhere as well. And so the question comes down to why did Compass acquire Anywhere? And again, hey Kayla, hey Nick, this is going to be very, very interactive. So what we're going over first is just some of what's gone on with this merger. We want a lot of questions asked as far as, you know, how is this going to affect you, things like that. So very interactive, but you
Not
know,
even just questions. What do you think about it?
yep, we want to get your opinion rather than having Kathy and I talk the whole time, because you'll find out I am very opinionated and I will give my opinion. But so 1.6 billion, 2.1 billion dollars in debt. Encompass has not been profitable for a day in their existence. So they've just acquired 2.1 billion dollars in debt. So why did they do it? So if you're not aware, there's been a big battle brewing between Robert Refkin and Compass and Zillow. And what has this battle been over? It's been over listings and whether to display the listings or to keep listings in house, not put them in the multiple listing system. A lot of this comes has to do with clear cooperation. Okay. So NAR has a clear cooperation rule that you have to list your house in the MLS or your listing within 24 hours. So there was a lawsuit against that. What NAR ended up saying was, we will leave it up to the local boards to police it and decide what they want to do. So what did Compass do? They said, we don't necessarily want to play with that. And we don't think NAR is going to do anything about this anyway. So what we're going to do, we're going to do these office exclusives. And so we're going to take those listings and we're going to, you know, do a 3-tiered rollout. And we're going to keep the listings in-house, not put them to the multiple listing system. And then we will, you know, maybe roll them out 30 days down the road. Again, I'm not going to go into the particulars about Compass. It's easy to read about it. And it's interesting to read all the stuff from Robert Refkin, and you go on LinkedIn, you can hear a lot of the other Eric Johnson and things like that. They're saying it's all for consumer choice. It's all in the benefit of the consumer, which is bullshit. So 100%, it's a total play of trying to keep listings in-house, make agents go, or agents and buyers go directly to your website to get information, because they all have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out, that they may be missing out on some information. So that was Compass's reaction to clear cooperation. They basically have said, nah, we're not going to listen to you. Local multiple listing systems, we're not going to listen to either. Sue us if you want. Okay? So let's bring Zillow into this. So what was Zillow's response? So when those listings don't go on, when those listings do not go on the multiple listing system, Zillow doesn't get them. Okay? Zillow is licensed in all 50 states, so they get the feeds to those listings. And what is Zillow's business built on? It's built on having buyers come to their website, look at listings, and then they contact a contact agent button. And unbeknownst to everybody, it does not go to the listing agent. Zillow has all these market-based pricing and flex agents that they either collect a referral fee from or they collect a monthly fee from. So that was going to cut into Zillow's business. So what's Zillow's response to this? If you don't list it in the multiple listing system within 24 hours, you can't put it on Zillow. Okay? So that was the line in the sand. They said, and then now there's lawsuits going on with, you know, Compass going after the Northwest MLS, because Northwest MLS out in Northwest Washington area and stuff like that will not publish Compass's listing. And so we've got that stuff going on. So what was Compass's response? Well, hell, we'll just buy anywhere. And we now have 320 to 340,000 agents. We'll be the largest real estate brokerage in the world. And guess what that's going to create moving forward? And again, I'm making some assumptions. My assumptions are 100% based on my 32 years in the business. We've sold 5,500 homes, 1.5 billion. So it's going to be a fairly educated guess, but in no way does any of our opinions reflect on Real Broker or anything like that. So these are just our own opinions, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be correct.
Nice disclaimer.
So what is this going to do? They are going to own 25% right off the top of all the listings that come up on the market. So they're going to do those as office exclusives. So here's the interactive part. What do you think other brokerages will have to do if this is not monitored? Anyone here want to hazard to guess what will happen? Again, it's both boards have approved the merger. Now it has to be approved, so there's no monopoly type thing. But guess what will happen if they now take those 25% of the market, make them as office exclusives? Anyone want to hazard a guess? Speak up. This is interactive. Any guesses?
He does this to me all the time.
Kayla.
Buyers are going to miss out. And sellers
more-
aren't going to have fair shot at getting their listing sold.
So Compass is gonna flavor this that it's in their best interest that their sellers want to go on be private and not have to go on the public market first. But what this is going to do, this is going to force, first of all, it's going to force the small brokerages to now have to do, I call it like kind. They're going to have to do something similar. Real Broker, EXP, do you think that they're going to have to go and now have private exclusives and kind of have to generate, so you have to go to their website to see the listings? Do you think that's going to happen? Kayla?
I'm not
Dennis?
sure. I'm not sure. Or maybe come out with a stance of why it's not in seller's best interest. I don't know.
Yeah, so, well, yeah, that's already been going on for 6 months of people going back and forth. And so the other part of this is the Zillow aspect of it also. And there's going to be major legal ramifications of this too. So what's going to happen is it's going to force the independents. So these are the smaller companies. These aren't the big companies that do, thousands of deals a year. The independents are not going to be able to compete with anywhere having 25% of the market share on their own website, not sharing it with the multiple listing system, not sharing it on Zillow. How are the independents going to get that information? They're not. And of course, Compass has said, we'll let you come to our website to get the information as agents and things like that. But what they're going to do is that they're going to use as a recruiting tactic. Hey, you're not going to be able to compete with us. Why don't you come join us? And that's part of this.
One little piece of this is in an exclusive, at least here in Michigan, can't guarantee it's the same thing everywhere. I can go out to Compass's website and find that. I can't show it. I cannot show an exclusive listing. Only people within that company can show it. That's all there's to it. I mean, that's like, you can go find it, can't show it.
So what they want to force more transactions going through Compass. So there's going to be more dual agency. Anyone on this call feel that dual agency is in the best interest of a buyer or a seller?
No.
We don't practice dual agency at all. We think that all parties in a real estate transaction should have separate representation. But what this is a play, and the other part that people aren't aware of is Robert Refkin is not a real estate person. He is not anything but a Wall Street guy. So, and this is a publicly traded company. So he only has one duty, and that's to his shareholders. Okay. This is all about money. This is nothing, all about basically trying to get into a pissing match with Zillow, which it's on. That is on. So what they're going to be doing is, if this were to happen and there's no opposition from NAR, has anyone seen any opposition from NAR at all? Has NAR spoken out about any of this? Nope. They're in their chic little Chicago offices, not doing a thing to protect the real estate industry whatsoever. And Kevin Sears, does anyone listen to or read Notorious Rob? His name's Rob Hahn. He had a really good article about it yesterday about Kevin Sears' response. And Kevin Sears is basically saying, he basically said, our role is not to protect the realtors, it's to protect the consumers. Well,
Why do I pay them?
I just got my $700 bill. I don't know if you guys just got your $700 bill for your local dues, your state dues, and NAR dues. That was something that was interesting. So what I predict will happen is the independents are not going to be able to compete. They're either going to have to. So what's going to end up happening is you're going to see consolidation galore. You are going to see companies merging together in the next 2 years. You're going to see fewer and fewer real estate companies. You're just going to see behemoth companies. It's going to be kind of, if you watch the banking industry, how many of your local banks have been eaten up by larger banks in the past 2 years? We're seeing it left and right. And that's going to be the same thing that's going to happen in real estate. We will lose the multiple listing system. The MLS will go away. There'll be maybe a national MLS, but while people are fighting over these listings and having the data to be able to share, that's going to be a question mark. I don't believe NAR will be in existence in 2 years. I think NAR they have not shown their value, and why. And people are already getting fed up from the lawsuit. Now we're going to see, I mean, they're not stepping up whatsoever. And please correct me if I'm wrong, or if you believe that I'm full of shit, by all means, tell me. I'm just telling you from what I see. So that's kind of the Anywhere aspect of it. Does Anywhere make it through all this? That's a question mark as well. They just took on $2.1 billion in debt. They've not turned a profit prior. This is totally a power play move to try to garner all the listings into their portal. And then this is also, they've taken this to their board, and they're private equity people, and it's been approved. So this is a big, huge gamble. The other aspect of this, last point that I'm going to make, is one of the most vocal critics of of Compass and their private exclusives were agents at Coldwell Banker. Okay. Anywhere just acquired Coldwell Banker. So how do you think those agents are going to feel being part of Compass? Any guesses?
I think they're going to feel like they should come to real.
So what I think is going to happen, here's one of the things that I think we should look at is, so there's anywhere from 320 to 340,000 agents. In order for Compass to survive, they're going to have to retain most of those agents. I predict a large amount of those agents are not going to want to go to their clients and say, we can't put you on Zillow. Because they're going to be forced pretty much to do the private exclusive. How would one of you like to go to your seller and say, hey, we're going to do this private exclusive. You're not going to be on the multiple listing system. You're not going to be on Zillow. But this is in your best interest. How do you think that's going to go over? And any guesses?
Probably not good because everyone relies on Zillow.
I
How many
agree.
times do you go to Zillow in a day?
Yeah,
Just because it's faster than getting on your MLS.
yeah.
So think about trying to give your value proposition to and you're competing against me, and I'm like, I'm going to be on Zillow. I spend $15,000 a month on Zillow. We do showcase listing, and you come in and go, you're not going to be in the multiple listing system. You're not going to be on Zillow, and it's in your best interest. How do you think that's going to go over? It's going to go over like in church. And that's going to be the way that's going to go over. And so, but tell me what the good part is for all of us. Kayla, are you with Real?
I am, yes.
I know Stephanie's with Real. Just came over with Real. Guess what opportunity that there is right now for any other brokerage right now?
Tell us.
What's that?
Attraction.
I
Yeah,
said tell us. Yeah.
yeah, so it's going to
Agent
be,
attraction.
you're going to have a lot of disgruntled agents that are not going to want to be under the Compass umbrella and the way that they do business. And they want to be able to, hey, I'm an independent contractor is the way I look at it. I'm self-employed every morning. Don't tell me how to do my freaking business. Don't tell me how I have to do it. And there's going to be that response in the real estate marketplace with realtors. So you're going to find a lot of disgruntled agents out there. So we don't have a Compass locally. We have Caldwell Banker. We don't really have a Compass or Christie or Sotheby's or anything like that, or that at all. But if you have some of these local agents, you may want to be reaching out. You may want to be, monitoring your local chat groups and Facebook and things like that, because you might see some, but if you know people at those other companies, you may want to reach out and just say, hey, how's this? I mean, I heard that, Caldwell Banker is being acquired by Compass. How do you think that's going to affect you? Let them tell them how they think it's going to affect them and then have a solution for it. All right. Any questions so far about the Anywhere merger? And do you have questions about how it's going to affect it? And then we'll get to the Zillow stuff, because that's going to be an important part of this also. What questions do y'all have? I saw
Where can I
Dennis.
listen to this recording after? Because I had to jump on a call. Is it going to be like recorded and I could listen to it?
Yes.
Yes.
And the real,
Yep, this is being recorded. Yes. So this will all be there. So let's get over to the Zillow aspect of this, okay? So we talked about, so when Compass is doing this, they're basically doing office exclusive, and they're not going on the MLS within 24 hours. And so Zillow came out and said, if you're not putting it in the multiple listing system within 24 hours, you can't use our platform. You cannot put it on Zillow. So right away, that's going to create an issue. And so Compass had to do some fast, when that started happening, Compass had to do some fast footed stuff about why it wasn't in their seller's best interest to use Zillow. And then, and then all of a sudden, a lawsuit comes out of nowhere, and guess who's bringing the lawsuit? The same attorneys that sued NAR and all the real estate companies, and got about $1 billion worth of money from them. Same attorneys, exact same attorneys, now are suing Zillow. Okay. And what they're suing Zillow for is they're suing Zillow for because of their flex program or their market-based program. Okay. And what they're saying is that because Zillow charges these flex teams 40%, or I pay $12,000 a month for market-based pricing, that arbitrarily or that inflates commission dollars. A buyer has to pay more money because of these fees, okay? Which is totally contrary to the lawsuit they filed for the sellers, which resulted in exclusive buyer agency contracts and going over right up front what commissions are and things like that. They're now saying that, no, well, yeah, we did that there, but this isn't really, I mean, now we're suing you anyways, okay? The biggest difference that you're going to see in this situation is Zillow will fight back, and they will fight back with the brightest and the best attorneys, okay? And from everything I've read about the lawsuits, I personally believe Zillow is going to crush the attorneys in this one. But here's the other part of this too that I want to bring up, and this is my own personal opinion again, is the main impetus of the lawsuit against NAR was obviously attorneys making money, okay? But the lead plaintiff in that was a guy named Sitzer, okay? It was Sitzer Burnett versus NAR and all these real estate companies, right? Does anybody know what Sitzer did the moment the verdict came in? Anyone know? No? He started a startup company. 100, pay me $500 to list your home, things like that. The whole impetus of the lawsuit was to gain traction and to gain notoriety to be able to do his startup. Okay. That was the main impetus of the lawsuit. And also, you know, catch marking guys, the ambulance chasers saw that as a way to make a ton of money. And so the same attorneys now are going to go after Zillow. The difference is that they're going to find a dog that is going to fight back. NAR did not fight back. The real estate brokerages, NAR threw the brokerages under the bus. So any brokerage that was making that had sales of $2 billion plus, 2 billion, 2 billion. I think it's 2 billion. 2 million? I think 2 billion. So any brokerage over 2 billion, they were left to negotiate on their own. The only ones that were protected in the NAR settlement were the companies that made less than 2 billion. So all the large companies, guess what happened? They were left to go negotiate on their own. Okay. So there was a little bad feeling there. So these attorneys now are going after Zillow. So who do you think is behind the attorneys?
Who are they representing?
Yeah. So who do you think? Well, it's a buyer group, but who do you think is also behind going after Zillow? Anyone want to guess? No. Not Sitzer. It's going to be Anywhere or anyone. So Anywhere is a publicly traded company. So you have a lot of major investors that are you know, that if Compass stock does very well, they do very well. So the attorneys are going to go and make their money anyways. But I can guarantee you that Compass is behind some of this lawsuit, because if Zillow gets taken down a little bit, it's in Zillow's, it's in Anywhere's best interest, because Zillow does not want these office exclusives. They want to be able to advertise those listings on their site, because that's what drives buyers to their site, and then that drives them selling stuff. Okay. So right now you've got a standoff, and That's why I'm saying that within the next 2 years, this is all going to play out in court. And there's only going to probably be one, there's probably going to only be one of these companies probably still standing intact the way they are today. Compass, if they can't keep their agents and they can't figure out how to pay off that debt, I don't see how they stay in business. They might be able to get propped up by venture capitalists because they've been losing money all along. So that's going to be the same game for them. But I don't see Zillow losing this fight. But that's going to be interesting to see. So what is anyone here that what I was expecting more people on this actually. So that was interesting because yeah, and again, like I said, the reason we started talking about this is because I brought this up in our team meeting last week. And my own agents on my DMA real estate team did not know anything about this. And I was shocked that something that will redefine the real estate industry, my agents didn't know anything about. So
We're out there selling houses.
yep. And so that was the other thing is how will this affect you on a local level? It's probably not going to affect you a whole lot for a couple of years. So you want to just keep doing the same thing, focusing on your client, providing value, and just doing what you've always done. But keep in the back of your mind, I think sometimes what ends up happening, and I saw this with the first NAR lawsuit, a lot of agents and brokerages stuck their head in the sand and they said, it's not really going to happen. It's not going to affect me. And they're dealing with the fallout of that now. This is going to have a lot more implications and a lot more fallout than that NAR lawsuit. Questions of how it's going to affect you or what information, if you're a Zillow person, how's that going to affect you? So the other thing with Zillow, and I will stop. Oh, Kayla.
Oh, yeah, I just have a question. I'm curious. So you said you have a team. So I'm curious
Yep.
how you are telling your team how to maybe address this at a listing appointment, where someone's like, well, why would I hire you when you don't have these exclusive opportunities like someone with Compass?
Yeah, so we don't have Compass in this area, but Caldwell Banker will soon be Compass.
Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, I'm probably the worst person to ask because so many of my listings are come list me's because of the fact I've been in the business for so long, and people are calling me because they know who I am and the amount of business I do. But do I use my Zillow presence to my advantage? 100%. And I also know that when I say I spend $12,000 a month on Zillow to get premium placement for all of my listings, and now we do the showcase as well. So we're spending extra money on that. That gives them premium placement, gives them more ways for, then we have the statistics of how much more exposure a showcase listing gets as opposed to a non-showcase. But that is definitely one of our factors because what are you doing on a listing appointment? You're going over your value proposition. And to me, the biggest things you want to do in your value proposition is point out all the things that you do that other agents do not do. But you don't compare yourself to them saying, I would never use Compass or anywhere. You know they don't do this anymore.
Right.
You say this is what I do, they'll already figure out that they don't do that if they're interviewing them. But if you know that you're competing against a Compass or an Anywhere agent, I would be highlighting that. And let me give you an example of highlighting that, and this may be helpful, maybe it won't be, but we have a local agent in our market that does a bunch of high-end listings, right? I was competing against him for a listing. And I knew that he didn't personally pick up the phone and call for feedback. He had his underlings do it. okay? And I say that affectionately. His admin, his people, stuff like that. He did not personally, but I knew that I was competing against him. I don't know how I found out because I never asked. But so I made a point of emphasis to say, and Mr. and Mrs. Jones, as you know, what I think your house is worth doesn't make no one cares what I think. What you think your house is worth, it does make a difference because you've got to feel good about an offer you take or don't take. But what really matters is what a buyer thinks. It's pre-approved with money in their pocket. And if they're showing our listing, guess what else they're showing? They're showing our competition. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we get that feedback after our showings to find out how we can, how we are priced, condition, things like that. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, because I feel it's so important, I am personally going to make that call because I think I'm going to get a better response rate when I call the agent asking for that, because it's so important to me to get that information so that we can discuss a good strategy to get your home sold. Does that make sense to you? Oh yeah, you do that yourself. Yeah, yep, absolutely. I'm not going to pass it off to anybody else. And I have a team, but no, that feedback's too crucial. I'm making those phone calls. What I'm really saying is, I know this person ain't going to do that. Is not, I can actually speak proper English, but he's not going to do that. And I know that he brags about his team, but this is because because I know it's important to these particular sellers, I'm going to emphasize that. I got the listing because of that. So the things that you do that other agents don't do, emphasize those in your listing appointment.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you.
The other thing is, I mean, if you stop and think, in our team, Dave's our listing person, right? He's our specialist. We do a little bit of other folks, but the majority of realtors all the way around are not listing. They're out there putting buyers and dragging them around and stuff. And they're the ones that are going to hurt the most, without a doubt, because they're just going to have limited access. So they're going to be the ones that are going to want to go, oh, I'm going to ship over to Compass because I can show their listings. It's the buyer's agents that are going to really feel this, I think, more than anything.
100%. And so listing agents, I think, are gonna, if you're a big listing agent, I guess if you're a big listing agent that wants to double dip, or create dual agency, then I mean, you may want to be there, but I can't see anybody looking a seller straight in the eye and tell them not being on Zillow or being in an office exclusive where only the agents in my company see the listing. How can you look your seller in the face and truly believe that that's acting in your seller's best interest? And the other part that's interesting about all this is that Compass is going to shout from the top, excuse me, Zillow is going to shout from the top of the mountaintop. This is all for the consumer. 100%. We're doing this in fighting Compass to tell them they can't be on we're fighting for the consumer and transparency, right? What's Compass doing? They're going to the top of the mountaintop and saying, this is for the consumer. We want to give consumer options. We want to give consumer choice. And what is NAR saying? And that was the funny thing about NAR is NAR's even going now, this is all about the consumer, but they're what's supposed to be our people fighting for us. They're basically saying, we want to watch out for the consumer. So everybody is saying they're watching out for the consumer. Who wants to guess which every one of these people are watching out for, including NAR? Not even that. What money? What their North Star is money. Period. That's what's driving everything they have. Stock, yeah, if you're a publicly traded company, for sure. But this is all being driven by money. It's not being driven by consumers and what's best for consumers. Because anything that we've talked about, do you believe any aspect of this is in the best interest of consumer? I can't think of one thing that we've talked about that's in the best interest of the consumer. And then the other part that we all have to to take a look at too is what's in the best interest of realtors too? I mean, who's fighting for us? Who's fighting for our business? Our industry needed change. I believe that my personal opinion about real estate is that there's a lack of education. The bar is too low to get into our industry. There should be more training, and there should be a higher bar to get into our industry. But that's also why 71% of all realtors did not sell a single home last year. 71%. And hence the name. I mean, you see that sign back behind us? And we just renamed this workshop mastermind. We named it to be the 10%. And what that means is we believe that 10% of real estate agents are real estate professionals, meaning they do business the right way. They communicate regularly with clients and other agents. They always put their clients' needs before others. They're professionals. These are the people that you want to do business with. When you get a call, you're a listing agent, you get a call from one of these agents, and he's like, oh, cool. I'm not going to have to do both sides of this transaction, and I'm not going to have to babysit. Kathy's biggest role that she does for DMA is she works with our buyers agents and she babysits other agents. She has to babysit other agents because they're not going to do their job. And that's tough.
I train a lot of agents from the other side of the
So,
table.
so the biggest things is in what the other part of, and the reason for our workshop and things like that is it is to have knowledge of what's going on, because what if you get a question from one of your sellers and they say, well, we heard office exclusive is the way to go. Kayla, how would you answer that if someone said, I'm talking to a Compass agent, they say that I'm much better off going as an office exclusive, and that we shouldn't be on the multiple listing system? And how would you overcome that objection?
I think I'd put it back on them and ask them why, what is it that makes them think that, and hear what they have to say and hear if any of it is valid, and then kind of counter it at that point, and then just pose the question more or less, just spitting off the top here about, how is it that your home is not getting showcased to every potential buyer? How is that in your best interest? More or less.
Dave, if I was a seller and you were trying to tell me this, what would you tell me? Can you spin it? Because you're really good at this.
Could I spin it as far as if I was a Compass
You're
agent?
a Compass agent, and I want to, and yeah.
Absolutely. Piece of cake. Don't believe a word I say about it, but so
That's why I'm making them do it.
so Kathy, one of the things that we do over here at Compass is we like to do a rollout. And what we want to do is we want to do it as an office exclusive first, because what we want to do, Kathy, we want to test the market. We want to see what kind of the pricing and things like that before we hit the whole market. So if we do this as an office exclusive and we find out that we're maybe a little overpriced or something like that, then we can adjust the price before we go on the market. Doesn't it make a lot of sense? So before we go public and we go on Zillow and then they see a price reduction and things like that, we don't have any of that. So we can test it. We get the agents looking at it, and they can give us their opinion on price. And if we're finding out a little bit overpriced, then when we go live in the multiple listing system, we've got the right price. Then we're not going to see the Zillow where they see the price coming down and get that white elephant effect where it looks like we're chasing the price. Doesn't that make a lot of sense?
If there's only 600, a quarter of the agents in my area looking at it, how do I know that they know what they're talking about?
Kathy, we are the largest real estate company in the world. We have 340,000 agents that are going to be sending it to their family, relatives, things like that. We are the largest company. Don't you want to work with the largest and the best? We have a proven strategy that this works. We have shown it time and time again.
I can't do this with a straight face because it's so terrible. I mean, but the whole country isn't going to see this listing.
Oh, yeah, isn't that my role as a listing agent, as a marketing agent? I don't want to just expose it locally. I want a wide net. I want to get the whole world talking about it. And I don't want it to be overpriced. And so we're going to test that price. And then we're going to be able to narrow in the price. And then when we go live, it's going to probably sell before then anyways. But the chances are 25%, we're going to sell it anyways. But when we go to live to the market, we're going to know the price is perfect. Doesn't that make sense, Kathy?
No, it still doesn't make sense. It seems like I am being prepared to reduce my price
no,
right away.
No,
Are
Kathy,
we already starting too
Kathy,
low or too
Kathy,
high?
remember we talked about the fact that what I think your house is worth doesn't matter. What you think the house is worth matters a little bit because you got to feel good about the price. But what we want to find out is what other agents and the buyers, what they're thinking the price is worth, because ultimately, isn't that going to determine the value of the house?
Yeah, but
You aren't going to determine the value of the house.
I
I'm not going to
understand.
determine the value of the house. The market and the other agents are going to determine the value. So let's do a test run. Like, when they do like Ford, Chrysler, GM, do they just put the car out there? No, they go through development. They go through crash tests. They do the crash test dummy thing and stuff like that. And then when everything is, they've done all those things, then they bring it to the marketplace. We're doing the same thing. Doesn't that make sense?
No, why would I want to do a crash test?
Because
I
do you want to do the
thinking-
crash test at open? You want to take that out in the open market and then you find out you're overpriced and then you're chasing the price down and then the buyer's going, well, that's been on the market for 90 days. What's wrong with it?
So how long is this test run?
We can come to an agreement, but normally we like to do it for about 30 to 45 days.
And typically, a half. I want to be out of my house.
Typically, we're going to sell it before then anyways, Kathy. That's only if we get to that point where we haven't sold it. But traditionally, and in my experience, we normally get it sold in that time frame. It's only at that point. So do you want? So did I do it?
Go on and on.
Did I do a halfway decent job?
Yeah, no, you did a good job of selling it.
Would you now want to go with Compass and the office exclusive? Obviously, I don't believe a word I said from the standpoint, but you can sell anything from the standpoint of you just have to get your mind in that mindset of this is and so what I had to do is I had to put in my head, this is in the best interest of Kathy. And so I had to go from that standpoint. Same reason, like I don't cold call. But when I do it pretty well because I have to get in that mindset of, hey, I'm providing something of value when I do circle marketing, circle prospecting in a neighborhood. I'm doing something of value. I'm providing value. I'm providing information to the other people in the neighborhood. So I have to get in that mindset before I'm able to do that. Make sense?
Yes.
What other questions does anybody have? Susan, James, if you're listening, I'm sure you're probably just cringing right now, but do you want to add anything?
Nope, I'm just enjoying the show. The theatrics. No, I get it. I'm 100%. I agree with you. I agree with what you and Kathy are saying. It's just going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out after what happened with NAR. I understand Zillow's a completely different beast, but it's still quite scary being an agent, not knowing for sure how this is all going to play out.
Well, you have the misfortune of hearing me talk about this all the time. Did I articulate the both sides of this in adequate fashion?
Of course, I'd expect nothing else.
Of course.
You can mute yourself now, Susan.
Thank you, Kathy.
Stephanie, you've been very quiet. I mean, you may just be recording or something, but do you have any questions, Stephanie?
No, I don't. I'm glad that I listened though. I didn't know anything about it, so.
So what I'd like you all to do is if you have other agents that you know that you don't think are aware of what's going on and things like that, please have them listen to this, not from the standpoint of narcissism on my part or Kathy's part, but we need to be aware of what's going on in our industry. Because this is going to have implications on your business. Let me ask whoever's, I know Dennis is on the call stuff. Do you understand how this might implicate your business, Stephanie and Kayla and Susan?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't you think that your fellow realtors should have this information and know this information, especially if they're going out and they're working with buyers and sellers?
Yeah, I'm surprised we honestly haven't heard anything about it yet.
So
Or at least me.
like, yep.
Well,
Well,
Stephanie, there are no compass agents here. And I think that we get a little bit complacent about that because we have no compass agents here. Now we're going to, and it's going to be the first time we're going to run into it. There's compass agents, Colorado, variety of different states, but
I think
it's going to be interesting.
I think the other interesting part will be, and I don't think it's been clearly articulated yet, is will Sotheby's and Christie's and things like that take the Compass name? I don't believe so. I think I think that their entity is probably the most valuable aspect of it. So I think what they'll do is they'll merge with Compass, but they'll still keep their own identity as far as the brand, because I think the brand is the most valuable asset that they have. So that will be, thanks, Kayla. But I think that's going to be the most valuable asset that they have. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone, takes on the Compass brand. But, and then the other part that's going to be interesting to see for me is going to be Compass is basically a technology company. They're kind of like what Real says is we're a technology company. And how will these old school real estate companies integrate Compass's technology? And will they integrate it all? Will the technology be one set of technology, or will they still have separate technologies? Because everything comes down to scales. So if you're able to scale something, it's a lot cheaper to do it. So I think that's one thing I'm going to be fascinated to watch is how that works. The integration of Compass's technology with the avant-garde type real estate companies. So I think that's going to be interesting to look at. But what I would like you to do, Stephanie, is if you hear of other people, we'll put this on, because I think we're going to do our other ones too, is we'll put this on, but have people listen to it, just so they're aware of what's going on. So they start asking questions. As Susan knows, I love just researching this stuff. My 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning is just being on the internet, looking up this stuff and just staying informed of what's going on. And so I appreciate everybody coming. Stephanie, do you have any other questions at all?
No questions. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Stephanie. We appreciate you getting on. And Dennis, if you have any questions, let us know, and we will put a recording of this on. We will put it on Break Room, and Stephanie, you'll probably see it on the Michigan State group as well. Okay.
Thank
And
you.
thank you, Susan.
You're so welcome.
Such a dork.
Ah.